Hey everyone, welcome to Voluntary Virtues Roundtable. Every Tuesday night, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm your host, Mike Shanklin. As always, we have a wonderful panel with us tonight, and we've got a lot of people that are going to be flying in the room here in a little bit, but we have a lot of great guests coming up on the show today. AJ Viviani, as well as Sean Springer, creators of the film Uncle Samta. Not Santa, but Sam with an M. Anyway, that's a really good series. We're going to get into that here a little bit. A little bit after that, there's been a I don't know if you want to call it resurgence or kind of like a rebirth in ANCAP ideals recently. I think Ron Paul was a big spur of that within the last few days. He said to the effects of a lot of words. We're going to get into this, so I don't want to scare away half the audience right off the bat. But Ron Paul has been in my headlines. Usually, I'm a libertarian, small L, and usually I don't talk too much about the Ron Paul thingy. I do much more, philosophy, economics, etc., and having a lot of variety of great guests on the show too. But there are some things that him and this other guest, or a show host, I should say, called Eric Bolling from Fox, have recently come out in support of Anarcho-Capitalism. We'll talk a little bit more about that here coming up. Also, a new statistic which came out from the Cato Institute. I know some of the left libertarians there probably just turned off the show, but I think it's a really important statistic, and it really is it's straight up fact, is that the best paying entry-level job in 35 states at this point is now the welfare system. No joking. And we'll go over those numbers here shortly. Also, this poor lady, she had a boat business where she had like a restaurant boat business, and people would go out, it was usually high dollar type stuff, and she had this big news agency come out there and do a report on her company, a local report for her company, and was talking about a lot of good feedback. The customers were really happy with the service. Obviously, word of mouth got around, and that's how she made her job. That's what she did for a living, right? Well, in the end, right after that news clip actually aired on one of the local news channels, the health department shut her down. We're going to go more into that. That's obviously a very serious topic. I have a lot to say about that. This next thing we're going to talk about after that is the fact that there are representatives out there, as of just this week, within the last week, banning military-grade body armor, right? No, not assault rifles, not grenades, launchers, and nuclear weapons. No. Body armor for regular civilians and citizens. We'll get more into that here shortly. Also, this is something that's been around for a while, and I think most of us have known about it, is that the minimum wage has actually been raised so high in so many regions that McDonald's and a lot of other fast food chains are instituting robots and technology to take orders and serve the food. It's supposed to be able to cut back on hourly staff rates. So a lot of low-skilled workers are out of a job. We'll get to talk more about that. Also, there's a really good as in the sense of it exposes the bad, a good article about, are you on a terror watch list? This is a really interesting article because it highlights so much of the left's hate for Bush, which you heard was, obviously Gitmo was one of those things, and civil liberties was another one, right? I'm not a terrorist, so why? That was kind of the chant of the left when Bush was in office. Once Obama gets in office, so it really highlights that this is, that aggressive overseas foreign policy on steroids. How Obama has not only not reduced Gitmo or really cut it off, but it's still thriving over in Cuba. They're still writing that non-cashed check. For those who don't know, this is kind of an inside joke. The U.S. basically took over part of Cuba, and they call it Guantanamo Bay, this area, and they send a check, a rent check. It's almost like paying eminent domain. They send this little rent check to, well, back in the day it was Fidel Castro. And every time he got the check for Guantanamo Bay for the rent, because he wanted that property back. He didn't want the U.S. on his property anyway. But he would take the check and rip it up. So they never cashed any of those checks. They might have, since I've heard about the story last. But the joke here is that Obama didn't close down Gitmo either, right? And when you look at the terrorist watch list, he's actually had tenfold increase of names that have gone on the list under the Obama administration. Huge surge, spike in infringements of civil liberties. This also means some of these peaceful people, just because their name happened to be on the wrong list, couldn't fly, had to get different plane tickets, delays in their days. When you're on a no-fly list, it's not like you can just get on the next plane after they fix the problem in an hour, right? Well, this is government we're talking about. It takes a little bit longer than that to clear your name, even though you've never done anything wrong. And also on this watch list that we will get more into here in a second. I don't want to spill all the beans on this, but this terrorist threat watch list that they have even shows that almost, 40 to 45% of the people on this list have no ties to any terrorist organization or affiliation whatsoever. We will get more into that. Once again, I think this is a perfect time to segue into an article about the NSA, our National Spying Agency, also known as the National Security Agency, and how they are struggling to keep up with top talent. Smart people are not wanting to be a part of the NSA and get employed with them. As the Snowden links have come out, it has really ruined the reputation of the NSA, and for good reason, right? These people are crooks, liars, cheats, and thieves, and what do you expect from a people most people don't usually levitate to that type of a thing, usually, right? There are some people who always will. I'm not saying that humanity's all peaches and cream and ponies and unicorns, but the reality of the world is a lot more people than bad in the world, and it's hard to recruit this good talent when most of the people think you're a criminal yourself. So they are really advertising heavily into Silicon Valley. I don't want to go into too much more than that. Something else I think we should talk about, it's kind of funny because Rothschild had actually touched on this earlier. It's the Robin Williams, and maybe we can go over that as a group here later on. But before we do that, we have our guests for the next 40 minutes. I'm really excited to have AJ Viviani and Sean Springer. They're, once again, the creators, animators, and directors of the theatrical film Uncle Samta, an animated Christmas comedy for the whole family. Their backgrounds include animating such films such as Shrek 2, The Iron Giant, Curious George, woo, my son would love you, Prince of Egypt, and Stuart Little 2, as well as work in TV, 3D Adventure Club, and video games, Nerf and Strike Elite by EA, and Splatterhouse by Namco. Some pretty big names here, so it's always good to have people with this type of experience on our show, and I really do thank you guys for your time. AJ, Sean, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Oh, doing great. And for those of you who don't know about what you're doing, it is at unclesamta.com. Is that correct?
It's unclesamtamovie.com. So unclesamtamovie.com.
Pardon me. Okay, great stuff. So there's a little 5-minute trailer, a little splash of what's going on with. Obviously, it takes a lot just to make that 5 minutes. As I'm watching the film go by, I'm laughing. I'm having a great time. My kid, loved the little character moving around. So it really is, family fun if you want to kind of niche it into some system. But obviously, people who are single can watch it as well. So it's almost for everybody out there. But I was thinking in my head, wow, every single second of this must take like minutes and minutes and minutes that people can't even fathom in their heads, right? Because I make videos somewhat narrated, and I just piece some pictures together and throw some videos and a little graphics here and there, throw in a nice little logo, and have it shine for a second with some glitter on some transition effect. Easy stuff in the bigger picture of what you guys are doing with this animation series. Let's start right off with, how did you guys, usually the first time people come on my show, I have to get a little bit of more environmental background on them.
Sure.
Where did you guys really start getting into animation, let alone, exposing some of the government nonsense that we're really stuck around today?
I think Sean could probably start that off.
How far should I go back?
Well, when you were born, and then we'll go from there. So.
We got 40 minutes. It's not a 5-minute interview. So.
Okay, right. I'll just give you a brief background of kind of where I've been and where I come from. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, LA. I got into animation back in the early 90s. I went to an art college out there called Cal Arts, and I worked in television on a show called The Max. Then I went to Warner Brothers, worked there for a while. I worked overseas, and working in 3D. I had to make the switch from 2D to 3D because that's where the industry was going. So I moved back from overseas to work on Shrek 2 and Stuart Little 2. And I started to see kind of a trend going, in terms of my career. And I got an opportunity to go back to do 2D animation. So that's why I'm in Orlando, Florida now. I came out here to work on a big piece of Curious George. I don't know if you remember back in 2003, Disney in all of their wisdom decided to close down their Florida unit, and a lot of my friends that I went to school with were all laid off, so they banded together and started a small company. and then that's kind of what brought me to Florida. I did that for about 2.5 years, and then I started teaching. And around that time is when the housing market actually started to kind of tank, and I couldn't really, and this is before I used to be not really too political. I guess you could say I was more of a right-leaning, but I wasn't really. I didn't vote. The last person I voted for was like Ross Perot. Didn't really pay much attention. Then I started seeing my value in my home going down, and I started seeing, like, my dad was telling me about how he was losing money in the stock market and a lot of his savings, and it really kind of piqued an interest for me in the economy, and I was like, why is this happening? And what is this? What does this mean? And then I saw a video with Peter Schiff, and I found about Ron Paul, and then it kind of started leading me down that rabbit hole. And that's when AJ and I kind of met, and we kind of went down that together.
Yeah. Well, how did you guys meet? Fill us in with those details, because this is going down in history. I want to hear it.
Okay. Right on. Well, actually, it was on a video game. It was a video game called Splatterhouse for PS3 and Xbox 360 back in 07, 08, somewhere thereabouts. And working on that project, it was around Ron Paul's time, talking about quantitative easing, Peter Schiff, hearing about those things, and money printing, bailouts.
Yeah.
When you start to hear those things kind of getting thrown around, these technical terms, and then not quite knowing what you believe when you hear. I mean, we work in animation, so we work with a lot of liberal-leaning people, which is completely fine because we get along with them in 90% of the things. It's where you talk about free trade and free markets, basically. That's where everything starts to shoot off in the other direction. But in working together, we started to see, hey, we're of like mind, sort of. We kind of spoke the same language and asked the same sort of questions. So we both kind of found the Austrian school, and I started reading Hazlitt and Bastiat, and that was sort of the beginning of the end.
Yeah, and this guy, he's responsible, because he's like, dude, you have to read this. And so I started reading a lot of the things he mentioned. I actually read The Road to Serfdom. I heard a talk show radio host guy mention it on the way to work one morning, and I read a good portion of that, and it really opened my eyes. This was around the time Peter Schiff was basically being laughed at on television, but was starting to make sense, and it's almost like everything happened all at once. Then Ron Paul, he's the only guy up there making sense. And I saw what they tried to do to him, and it really kind of pushed me towards minarchism in a big way. And soon after.
Yeah. And of course, the natural progression is just that they're going to do whatever they want regardless. The political process, I mean, for us, we look at it as it only exists insofar as it can educate people. I think that Ron Paul does have a service, and people like
using.
I mean, doesn't necessarily have to. I mean, we don't want to say, hey, we're purely this person or that person, and that it is one particular person. It's more what he's saying, not who he is, and I think he would agree with that. It's knowing, I guess, that the political process. I mean, more people, I think, have found their way to these tenets of peace and prosperity and non-aggression and property rights through someone like him. Not to say that we particularly partake in the system from here on, not quite, but we don't begrudge those who do, I guess.
And what's funny too is, like, AJ and I we've kept each other sane for quite a few years now. We've worked together for about 6 years, right?
Basically,
we work in education now. We teach at a private college. We teach animation. And one night after work, we were having a couple of beers, and of course we are always talking about what's going on, around us and on the news and things. We were joking about, doing a project. We had this idea, like, what would be the most sacred holiday in the United States, or something that would be sacred that of course, the government would go after and try and
the last bastion of
the last bastion of freedom, which would be Christmas, which is kind of like this untouchable thing you're not supposed to mess with. But of course, they they create this horrible thing where they demonize Santa, and Santa has to go gulp because he's a criminal now, and they decide to replace Christmas with their own, government-mandated holiday called Fairness Day. So everybody gets the same thing, and they decide
toys for everyone.
Yeah. So the road to
progress is paved with toys. That's the sort of the log line.
They destroy
Subjective
the
theory,
free
value be damned, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Price fix everything. It'll be great.
Yeah. So they create a toy-based economy. So they create these fairness factories, and they start offering these ridiculous amounts of money, pulling people out of the private sector, which totally throws the balance of the economy off. And
through the subsidies and things, people start to leave their jobs in droves, so you have people stopping, basically farming and everything else. So they're like, well, I can get a job in a fairness factory and make a ton more money than I would making, food, basically. So it really starts to throw the economy into a tailspin, and that sort of leads us to our main character, who's a boy, and he's kind of disenfranchised because Santa has failed to deliver him toys, despite him being a good person. But because he's kind of a sharp kid, he starts to see, oh, well, it seems that I don't really have to be honest. Dishonesty is actually rewarded more than anything. Right. So he starts to kind of manipulate things, and through a series of events, causes Uncle Sam to show up to the wrong place. And
Uncle Sam's the president.
Uncle Sam is the president in our film. And basically, they see this kid, and they're like, he's pretty sharp.
Yeah.
We should pick him up and make him the face of Fairness Day. So he, gets brought into Washington, and he thinks, maybe I can do some good here. And, of course, you can't kid kidders on their home turf. And he finds that out pretty quickly. So.
And it's a wacky movie. I'm sorry.
I don't want you to give away the whole story because we got.
Oh, there's way more within it. Oh yeah. No, that's actually just scratching the surface. Yeah, there's a lot of
twists,
fast ones that get pulled. So
yeah, action.
Okay, well, don't tell me the end of it or anything that would be obviously you won't. I just don't want anything to slip out here. I want to real quickly. I have plenty of questions for you, but I want to open this up to the panel real quick. Go ahead, Lauren. It looks like you have the first question tonight, and Rothschild, I think you have the second one. Go ahead.
Okay.
I think your mic.
Lauren, is your mic set up properly? We're gonna work on that, Lauren, and we'll come right back to you. Rothschild, do you have a question?
Not really that I can think of right now. Maybe a little later.
Okay. Lauren's working on it. We'll get right back to her. My first question for you really is, what kind of an impact do you think you've had so far?
Wow. When we actually were writing the script, we took like 3 nights a week off after work and wrote it. It took us a little over a year and a half to get the basic story down. And we decided, we haven't really gotten any feedback other than people that we know. And we decided, what the hell, let's do a Kickstarter and see what happens. So we put it out there, and we didn't get the 100,000 that we were going for. We got about 25%, but we got a lot of contacts and contacted by a lot of people, and we were overwhelmed with the positive, feedback.
It really got its legs in its last week or so. Yeah. Unfortunately, of course, we started with no marketing, no idea. We came completely out of left field. We haven't been. We're kind of the behind the scenes people. We like to be behind the camera, not in front of it.
Yeah.
We watch. We're familiar with you, Mike, and we've watched your show. We watched, Dollar Vigilante, a lot of ANCAP type shows. We're familiar with it, but we've never been ones to kind of be out there. So I guess now we're like, we're outed. Yeah, we were like, let's just throw this out there and see what people think. And we have gotten great feedback. We were very lucky. We got an article on benswan.com, and through that met Ben's PR director, and he's now working with our studio. So we're moving forward on that.
And actually, a good segue later will be iCloak.
Yeah, Eric Delisle.
He was one of the contributors. He helped us get in contact with Ben And we actually met Ben when he was in Orlando about a year ago. But Eric Delisle, who's one of his contributors, has a product called iCloak that you use that actually kind of masks.
Yeah, apparently that's a quick segue, I guess, for Tor network and everything. It allows you to boot your computer up and subvert your OS. It's pretty cool.
No, I do know you can. It's like a traveling operating system that's secure, basically. Yeah. I'm with you. I have heard of that actually. Yeah.
And soon after
and obviously, you got to keep contact of your physical data. The physical side is so important. I work in IT. Security, actually. So, yeah. I'm actually a marketer for an IT firm. It's kind of funny that you're talking about how you need marketing. Anyway, I think it's kind of funny that it's like a little revolution. There's this, like, the LGBT community has kind of come out of the closet. Now it's time for the voluntarists to come out of the closet. That's the way I do it. So it is happening. It's great, too. Yeah. It's like so many people are like, I've kind of thought these things for years, and finally, you're right, guys. I'm one of you now. Finally, every day, it's like somebody coming from some other left field, like you were saying. It's just great. Let's go back to Lauren real quick. She says she thinks she might have had it fixed. So, Lauren, can you hear us? Can you talk to us? Uh-oh.
Still not.
All right.
Maybe
if
you can type the question.
Yeah, exactly. Type the question in, and I'll try and pass it along, Lauren. Make sure your settings or make sure your headset's plugged in. All right. So anyway, I have plenty more questions for you guys too. So one of the things that I first thought of when I saw the movie is it's not really partisan one way or another, right? Like you can't really tell that it's anti-Bush or Obama. You could have made the video in any of the presidencies, and it would have applied to them just almost equally, in my opinion. It was really good stuff. So just looking at the spectrum as a whole.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's actually one of the things that we were shooting for, because we're poking fun at the ridiculousness of what they're doing, not any political party. It's like right or left. They're the same thing.
Yeah,
they do the same things.
For our mind, you could take the person out and put a different person into the government, and it's like they're wielding the gun.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the person who pulls the trigger is not as important as the trigger itself. I don't know.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who does QE or who enacts silly policies and creates arbitrary laws. They both do the same thing. One does it more for this sector, one does it more for that sector, and it just keeps leading us down the same
action
path.
trumps the intention.
Yeah,
basically.
Definitely. I agree with you guys. One of the things that's, the next question that usually pops in my head is, and maybe this has something to do with the end of the movie, so I don't want to ruin it once again. Please don't give it away.
Right.
Or don't even think of the movie. We're going to come back to talking about the movie here in a second. But this is just your opinion about the real world now, because this show is really about the real world, and it will apply to how people think about the movie.
Right.
What do you guys think is the real solution? Is there a political solution? Obviously, you said, it's really just an educational platform at this point. Or do you think like moving to New Hampshire makes a difference, or like the Dollar Vigilante moving to Gulch Gulch, something like that? Do you think it's plausible to create your own community? What kind of a strategy to achieve a free society do you guys usually focus on?
Speaking for myself, which is I guess all I can really do, I tend to have a hard time with trying to I guess think of centrally planning how we should get together. I think that I love things like the Free State Project. I think that's an awesome idea. Gulch Gulch, of course, is equally awesome. If people have the means to do that, I think it's amazing. Being around like-minded people is it's a very sane-sating thing that for anyone. When you work with, and you're just basically surrounded by a bunch of statists every day, all day, it can wear on you a little bit.
Yeah.
When you hear nothing but we should vote for Hillary 2016 or something like that. And I mean, what can you respond? How do you respond to that? I mean, there's no real way that you can say, well, have you heard of that? I'm not even gonna try to.
It's like somebody saying, hey, 2 + 2 = 5, except they're saying something is much more difficult. It's kind of like you have to turn around and then explain calculus to them.
Exactly.
It's like, whoa, it's all over the place, but that's what it feels like. I know, I do feel that vibe. But obviously, well, this I don't know. I'm saying obviously, like I'm reading your minds. I don't mean to read your minds. I want you guys to convey
No,
your
not
minds.
at all.
What do you guys think about the people who say we need a violent revolution? What do you think about like the Revolutionary War? Do you think it was pro more freedom? What do you think about revolution in general? Do you think it has to be just educational and peaceful? I'm just curious on your strategy on that.
I personally don't support violent revolution. I don't think it would solve anything. I'm not a proponent of violence. Look at where it's gotten us. And every time you start, I wish I could quote it verbatim, but it was it was what Martin Luther King. All he said was violence just creates more violence. It doesn't solve anything. It just creates more enemies. It's just like our foreign policy. You see what we do. We bomb this country. We create enemies, generations of enemies in the future, and then we're over here doing this other thing, and then we're wondering why people don't want to trade with us, or they don't like us, or Americans are hated around the world. It's because of things that we've done in the past. And I hate even saying we, because I don't want to associate myself with the government. It's like that's what they've done. That's not us. Mm-hmm. And in terms of our project, we talked about it, and I forgot we heard somebody, it might have been Seth Godin, said, take what it is that you do, like if you have something to say, take what it is that you're good at, and then use that as kind of a platform for changing the world, which sounds really grandiose, but we figured if we wanted to get free market ideas out there, like my son, I have an 8-year-old son, and he doesn't I could talk about my own education growing up. I didn't learn anything about economics or how things really worked. It was all state propaganda. My son, I would like him to be able to go see a movie, and I'd like other children to go see a movie with their parents and actually learn something. It's not heavy-handed where we're trying to beat them over the head. It's more like, hey, remember, kids will grow up and go, hey, remember when that guy started printing all that money and it created all these problems? They'll understand what that is, and later on, they'll say, yeah, that's the boom and the bust cycle that's created by Keynesian economics, and they'll go, oh yeah, if we just plant those seeds when they're younger, it's like, I don't know if you've seen the Lego movie. It's awesome. It's a very libertarian-esque kind of story, and people loved it, and they identify with it. They just don't, they don't know, they wouldn't be able to put their finger on what it is that they're watching, but those things resonate with people. The truth resonates, and we figured if we could put a movie out there that's lighthearted, that's fun, has a good moral in it, and appeals to people highbrow and little kids as well. And that was really kind of our way of
peaceful resolution or revolution.
A revolution.
I mean, ultimately, we look at it as if we can educate people, then we don't have to worry about revolution. A revolution will work itself out. Hopefully, with the technology of Bitcoin and things like that that are subverting the state, basically. It's only a matter of time that we won't even have to use violent means. That won't even have to be an option. I hope that it would be the very, 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 very long last option, which, the state is the one that's violent. Individuals, we would like to just trade and exist amongst one another. I mean, that's not. It doesn't make sense to have to fight something that's aggressing against you. And is basically illegitimate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who was it? I think it was Dr. Murphy one time. I spoke right before him at Anarchy at NYC, and or I spoke right after him actually, and he had said this one line that I thought was really good. He goes, "The state has a comparative advantage on violence. Not competitive violence, they have that too, but even more importantly, comparative." So those who know economics, it's really deep. And so I do feel for where he's coming from. Obviously, you have the right to defend yourself from any aggressor, but there's also plausible strategies, right? I agree, guys. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's see if Lauren's microphone's working again. We're going to try to turn this over to Lauren. Go ahead, Lauren. Uh-oh. You need to get some new headphones. All right, Rothschild, you had another question. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, stop muting her mic. That's sort of obnoxious. So Mike,
I'm not. I'm not.
I know, I'm teasing.
Maybe if she unplugs her headphones, you can use the regular speaker.
Yeah, I didn't think it worked. Anyway, my question is, do you ever talk, I guess, maybe not because you don't want to get fired, but do you talk politics when you're in Hollywood, and if yes, what do they throw at you?
That's a great question. Actually, there's a good friend of mine who is he's a socialist, but we have great long conversations about the role of government, why government exists, why it's legitimate or illegitimate in our case, and a lot of the main arguments seem to come back to humanity, and it's basically, from what I've gathered, the socialist tendency is there's a mistrust in humanity. These people can't manage themselves, so we need to spread the wealth around and manipulate markets, because we have to, the knobs and the levers need to be pulled, and then we'll all be prosperous. So there is this mistrust in man that I think ANCAPs kind of look at as, who can know you better than you? I don't know. To me, there is that. I guess Socrates. The only thing I know is that I know nothing. We can say, I know that I don't know. I have no idea, and I can, through logical deduction, make those arguments, and I don't have to use the empirical data that virtually anyone will throw at us. That anyone can come up with somebody could post an article and say, well, look, I found this, and I could go, well, I can find 4 other articles that post about that. If you can do it, in some sort of a priori way, I don't know. To me, it seems to work out far greater than going off of faulty data.
Yeah, I've gotten into it a couple of times with some people, over around the election time. I had a friend who was, just basically reiterating what they heard on CNN and trying to lecture me about not voting and how, if that's socialism, that sounds great to me, things like that, which you hear all the time. And they're completely uneducated or misinformed, I should say, on most of the subjects or most of the things that they're talking about. I've kind of got to the point now where I realize it's better just to keep your mouth shut. If I was working in Hollywood now, which everyone's probably going to see this,
yeah, we're probably
they're not big fans of people with differing opinions. The one good thing I would say is if, at least, if you pick your pet issues, it seems to me, this is kind of my view. What I've learned is certain people have their pet issues. They don't really care about what actually is causing it. It's like you mentioned the gay community. A lot of people are, I'm pro, we need gay marriage and all these things, and it's like, no, we don't. It already exists. Two people who love each other say, hey, you know what, we want to spend our lives together. You don't need the state to make a piece of paper or govern your
with a magic wand or whatever.
From the state to tell me who I can be with or can't be with. And I think when you explain things to people like that, it gets tiring, because then they're like, what? What are you talking about? You're like, and then you have to go down, and it always ends up with, well, then who will pave the roads, and who's going to filter the water, and all these kind of ridiculous arguments. I've just learned to kind of keep my mouth shut. I mean, he's been there. I'm a bit of a brutalist. When people start down that pathway, it usually ends with people wanting to fight. So
right.
I've learned to back off. He's a much better debater than I am.
Most people that I will get into those conversations with, I mean, you pick your battles, and
Yeah.
I do have those arguments with my friend at work who's a socialist, but he's a very, very cool guy, very nice guy, and you can shake hands at the end of it, and he just shakes his head and goes, "You're crazy," but it's I guess it's fun. It's like sharpening the sword in a way, even if you're never going to use it.
No, good stuff. So, Lauren, let's try it one more time. Let's see if we can get you now. Uh-oh. Nope, still can't hear you. I know.
I should have listened to
That's
Rage
tragic. Yeah.
Strike 5. You're out.
If she could write, maybe Lauren, you could write it. Just write over here. Then.
Yeah, I got the question already. I already know it. I should have let her go on for a little while. All right.
We'll ask it for you.
Well, we know that the camera's sexist. Anyway.
Yeah.
The question is, what are you guys' thoughts on Common Core? It's been a big topic over the last couple of years. It's been blowing up, and
this guy can definitely.
Well, unfortunately, I don't make a lot of money. My wife works, and my son is in it right now. He's actually in a very good school district here in Florida. That's what we moved recently, and I made sure we were in this particular district. It's actually very good. I've spoken with the teachers, and the teacher he had last year, and they aren't fans of it. I honestly, that's one of our big motivators, with our project, and I'm against it. I think it's terrible. I see the homework he brings home sometimes. It's these ridiculous questions like, it's not even like a question. It's like how they ask it. It's like if our almighty leader had seven widgets, and then our other former almighty leader had, who would you say?
It's like
Abraham Lincoln had 5 widgets, and then Barack Obama had 7 widgets.
How many cheese packages?
Yeah, how many widgets?
Have
how many
lunch?
widgets would these fantastic, wonderful human beings have?
Right.
It's like. I'm kind of, making fun of it.
Kim Jong-un is your god. I got you.
Yeah. And he comes home, and I have to. It's funny. Like AJ can attest to this. I have to tell him, don't say that. He says things sometimes. I'm like, don't reiterate, because he hears us talking, and he's like, he'll make comments on things. I'm like, don't say that at school. Please don't say that at school. You're gonna get me arrested.
Don't listen to Daddy.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Okay, so their position is anti-Common Core. All right.
Yeah, definitely.
So, no, good stuff. I'm curious, who do you think has been, like the top 2 or 3 influences on you from the Austrian school?
For myself, I would probably say Tom Woods and Walter Block. I think. Off the top of my head, yeah, and Bob Murphy, I would throw him in there as well. Sure.
Okay. What about?
For me, I would say, well, I would have to say first would be Hayek, because that was the first thing that kind of led me down that path. Tom Woods as well, and Bob Murphy. I read a lot of Lou Rockwell's, articles, and there's a bunch of them. But when I read Bastiat, when he was like, dude, you have to read Henry Hazlitt and Bastiat. And
actually, in that regard, I would revise my statement.
Oh,
I would pepper Rothbard in as well. I was thinking more contemporarily.
That's a hard question. Man.
Yeah, no, that's to really take a step back and
I used to, and I watched a lot of podcasts from Stefan Molyneux too. That was a big influence in the beginning too. When I first saw some of his podcasts that were. Somebody linked it through Facebook or something. That probably was AJ, and listening to him put those things together, and it's almost like you see Tom Woods, and then he has Bob Murphy on there, and then you watch Bob Murphy, and he talks about Lou Rockwell, and
Mises.org is a long and dark.
Actually, you know what we should say? Ludwig von Mises there.
Yeah.
You mean that statist? I'm joking, everybody.
Right.
Come on, I'm about to get 1,000 hate mails. No, I'm just joking. All right. So, seriously, though, one of the questions I think is really vital and important, especially today. What direction do you think the voluntarists need to go next? To those who are actually trying to promote the message of freedom, obviously not those who are just voluntarists living their lives, but those who are actively trying to spread the message of freedom and like truly educate others on a massive scale. What do you think needs to be heard? Any topics that you think need to be heard of more so than others? Which ones do you think are even maybe overshadowing other topics? We could go the CNN route, pick out 5 things that I'm just curious. What do you see too much of now that you'd like to see less of, media-wise, and what do you want to see more of?
I can start with the positive side. I love the stuff that Jeff Tucker brings, the positivity and the optimism and the genuine, just giving that kind of. He has this draw to him, and it really brings virtually anyone to the fold, so to speak.
Yeah, he writes like uplifting.
Yeah, he's a really positive guy, and I think that while we tend to go more toward like hate the state and this and that, and it's very easy to get drawn and pulled down into those things. And I guess bringing that, you know, I don't know, humor and lightness to things, we could definitely use more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the positive messages tend to help more than the negatives, because it always ends up with an argument. But if you stay positive, like I love that meme that says, you know, something about like so much paper's been saved by the invention of like the thumb drive. And it's true. If you look at like free market solutions, things that have been invented that have done so much more for, you know, than a bunch of people protesting and creating laws to try and regulate something. You know, the human ingenuity will figure itself out. I think I love those kind of messages.
I mean, I think the on the philosophy side, I think there's a ton of good work that is being done on that end. But the disconnect is always, how do you get really, really highbrow, almost unintuitive concepts to be brought to people very, very simply and easily? And of course, anything worth learning is not going to be put into a soundbite, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's the great travesty of economics, really. I mean, it's far easier to say, hey, the minimum wage, we should raise the minimum wage. That makes sense. It would make all of our wages go up. Everybody would be better off. And it takes that second or third sort of you know, one-off of that to say, well, wait a minute, you know, if you do that, then it's going to have detrimental effects, or deleterious effects to people's jobs. Those who get that minimum wage increase, it's positive, but those who, you know, get fired, people just don't really look at it.
Sounds like you just hate children.
Well, that's basically it. I mean, we don't want to say that and go on the record, but if you could just edit that part out.
Yeah. Kim Jong-un will not be happy. All right, seriously, no. I want to open this up. One last chance to all of our panelists, and even the one who can't say anything to us. Any more questions from you guys? Oh, it looks like Lauren dropped out. Rothschild, Mensel, you guys got questions? Last chance right now. Go ahead. Last chance.
Well,
Make it a good one.
You mentioned before that socialists have a distrust of humans. Humanity. I do as well. I don't really think that one's... That's not a joke.
I know it's not. It's an understatement.
All right, yes. I am a misanthrope. So I don't really think that one's view of humanity really matters. I mean, do you think that's what it mainly is? Because, you know, at least for me, I think the reason that so many people, and especially so many people in Hollywood, are statists is because people want the pat on the back, right? To be a statist and certainly to be a leftist doesn't mean you care about the poor. It means only I care about the poor. And, oh, look at me, I'm supporting these programs to help the poor. Do you think that's what it has to do more with than a negative view of humanity, just wanting people to say, oh, you're so great, oh, you're so great, oh, you care about all these people?
Right. Well, I mean, I would say the argument to you know or against humanity is more of the, once you have anarchy and it comes down to the you know, nuts and bolts, the arguments that the socialists or leftists or progressives might have is the mistrust of humanity. As it stands right now, yeah, I think that they just hide behind, you know, yeah, look at these programs that are helping people, and I care, and this and that, because I allowed this organization that I basically have no real part of to, you know, extort and steal money on my behalf so they can give it to other people, which, you know, that I don't know, basically.
I kind of agree. I kind of also look at things like, you know, if you're raised in a certain culture, like you're raised in a household that's like Catholic or Christian, you know, even if you're not a practicing Catholic, you tend to, you know, agree with the things, and that's how you were raised. I think a lot of people are raised in government schools. They hear, this is the way it is. Right. You have a government, you have this, you have, of course we need taxes for this, and of course we need to bomb these people over here. That's because we're free, and we're, you know, you hear this your whole life, and then you have all these people who are surrounding you, and they're all, you know, just reiterating the same thing. Most people don't want to think about that. I think most people are good inherently. They just want to live their lives, and for them it's like, I don't really want to know. And, you know, yeah, I think it's good the way, you know, yeah, I'll vote for this guy. He sounds good, and you're part of that clique. I think a lot of people kind of fall into that category. They don't really know what they're talking about. They just kind of follow along like what everybody else does. This is the way my parents voted. I think there's a lot of that. But now you're forced to think about it. The economy is going down the toilet. Like me, I really didn't think a lot about that stuff, and then I started seeing all these things happening. I'm like, what does that mean?
Right.
And you know, what is, you know, like I learned what Keynesian economics was after I learned what Austrian economics was, and I didn't realize that.
And of course, you only learned Austrian economics because the Keynesians created that.
Right.
You know, in a way, it's kind of funny that we owe you know, Bush and Obama, or I don't know if you like Woodrow Wilson or something, if you want to go as far back as
The
that.
states create anarchists, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. The state created us. It created these problems that caused us to ask, why is this happening, and go down this
And
path.
it's funny because they have their utopia now. They always try and claim we want this utopian society. They can't exist. And it's like, what are you talking about? You have your government-run world government. Once it becomes a world government, then they've completely succeeded, and then they're like,
They'll still argue.
now this is your utopia that you've wanted. It's everything. You got thousands and thousands of regulations and laws. You can't even walk across the street without getting, you know, accosted by a guy in a silly uniform for just doing nothing, something arbitrary. I walk across the street and I get a jaywalking ticket from some clown in a silly outfit. You know.
You hate kids.
They won.
Okay, you hate kids.
He was accosted by a clown. That's what.
Actually, my wife just got a ticket recently, so I'm not happy.
Yeah, I can tell. They're a little. You took it personal there, brother. No, I'm just joking. Great stuff. Hey, I do agree with you. It's a generational problem, and it's going to have to be a generational solution. I also wanted to add real quick. You know, most people shouldn't have to care about this kind of stuff. You know, you shouldn't have to worry about a guy murdering somebody in Taiwan. Sure, we're against it. Sure, we would do what we could if we were there and could stop it. But you know, people shouldn't have. There shouldn't be people running around screwing other people and using the illusion of the state in the first place. That's the real problem. And I do want to ask two questions here in closing. The first one is, first of all, and don't answer real quick because I'll let you guys answer at least in tandem. But how can people help you if you need monetary support? Where do they go? What websites do you want people to see? And the second one is, imagine you are on your deathbed and you have 1 minute to say something to the whole world. Fox, ABC, CBS, and Voluntary Virtues, we're bringing our microphones right up to your face. There you go. And you got 1 minute to say something to the whole world, and the whole world will hear you. What would you say to the world? Go ahead, guys.
I'll let him start.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the last part because if I don't say it now, I'll forget. That's how my brain works now. I'm getting old.
Oh, you're a pothead. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm joking.
I'm a coffeeholic. How about that? I guess I would say, and AJ's heard me say this before, it's kind of something that while we were sitting there talking one day, and I realized that, you know, learning about things like economics and how things work, it's like philosophy. And so many people go through their whole life and don't understand what their philosophy is. And I would just say, I guess if I had to say something to the whole world, I would say, you know what you believe in, know your own philosophy. Otherwise, you'll spend the rest of your life at the mercy of somebody else's philosophy. Does that sound pretty good?
I would go with that. Yeah, for myself, I guess, like if I was on my deathbed, I'd probably say something like really pretentious or something. I don't know. Yeah, I'd be like, Google voluntarism. No, I don't know. I can't. Honestly, that's a really tough question.
Those are pretty good last words, I think. You know, hopefully Google stays a search engine for a while. Maybe you'd want to say research Google, research voluntarism. I'm joking. Yeah, it's like in the year 2050, Google's out of business. People are like, what does Google voluntarism mean? It used to be a verb, guys.
Yeah.
All right. All right. And where can people find you? Good stuff, guys.
You can find us at UncleSamtaMovie.com. That's UncleSamTAMovie.com. Also, our email is info@UncleSamtaMovie.com. If you want to just hit us up and say hey or whatever, if you see the thing and you like it or you have any comments on it or what have you. We do have a donation page on the website. We do take private donations.
As well as Bitcoin?
Yeah, we do take Bitcoin as well as Federal Reserve notes. So those who'd love to partake in the project, we appreciate any and all support.
Yeah, completely. And I'll help you guys spread it around on the Facebook page, etc.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, good stuff. You guys earned it. Lauren, we finally got her microphone working, it appears, so I want her to get her 2 cents in. Go ahead, Lauren.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi. So, AJ, I've talked to you before.
Yes.
Awesome. And I was wondering, at what age, and it's the perfect outro question, at
Great.
what age
Awesome.
did you stop believing in Santa?
Whoa.
Oh.
Well, I mean, 7 days ago, I found out. No, I was like,
I
yeah,
broke the news to him.
right. Well,
Oh.
yeah,
Okay.
that was the. No, I think actually I held on to Santa for far longer than most kids. I think.
Wait, Santa's not real?
I know, right?
What?
It's
Hey, guess what? Either is the state.
That's the whole thing right there. That's the whole film, actually. It's two entities that don't quite exist battling. So, yeah, no, I probably held on to it till I was like, I don't know, 7, something like that, maybe 8.
I was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I remember my dad.
held on
I asked
probably
my
pretty
dad.
long.
I remember my cousins were staying with us. My aunt was in the hospital, and we were sitting on my bunk bed and looking out, waiting for Santa. And I was sitting there thinking, I had to be 5 or 6. I was like, there's no way you can fly without wings, you know? Like,
I was a dumb kid.
you know. And I asked my dad, is Santa really real? And he goes, what do you think? And I was like, no. And he goes, yes. So I was one of those kids.
Oh, good stuff. It looks like Rothschild has one more question for us, too.
That's cool.
We got to let them go, guys. We got to move on with the show.
Yeah.
But Rothschild, go ahead with your question.
Yeah. At what age did you stop believing in the Tooth Fairy?
Oh, that was several days after.
Yeah.
You start with Santa. Once Santa's gone, then you're like, well, wait a minute. What about all these other things? So after that, it was the leprechauns don't exist. Unicorns, I'm still, I don't know, might have been on Noah's Ark or something. It's possible.
Hold on. Chuck E. Cheese still exists? Okay, we're good.
Oh, no, that's absolutely true.
So when you're a 5-year-old, you just have to make sure some of the things that are really awesome are real. So,
Right.
Anyway, great stuff. We got to let you guys go. AJ, Sean,
right. Thank you very much.
so much for all your hard work. Thanks for coming on the show. We're going to have you guys back, hopefully within the next 6 months, maybe a year, to give us a little update. Or if you need help, maybe even sooner than that. Sound good?
Cool. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Take care.
You too.
All right. Awesome, guys. Once again, AJ and Sean from Uncle Samta. Make sure you guys check out UncleSamtaMovie.com and help them out. Obviously, great stuff. What do you guys think about them? They already left, so we can talk about them now behind their back. I'm serious. What did you guys think about them?
They were good. They were cool. I guess.
Yeah, I think so too. When I first saw the movie, I don't think they were as strong, or the trailer for the movie, I should say. I don't think they were as strong anarcho-capitalists at that time. I know they had seen the Facebook page and they wanted to support it, etc. They had obviously come somewhat over to our direction. I just didn't know how much. Now I see a picture of them in the background. They have Minger and Rothbard and Mises, and it's a sigh of relief, And then, speaking of which, this is going to kind of segue us into our topics for tonight, which I think we have plenty of topics we can cover over the next hour. Lots of great stuff. But one of the first things I'm really impressed about, two people actually, within the last week, have outright admitted that anarchy is A-OK. One of them is Eric Bowling. He is a show host. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name right. I've seen him before. I just can't remember how to pronounce his last name. I believe it's Eric Bowling from Fox News. He was actually a show host and has been for years. He actually had a clip. You can Google this in right now, everybody, and make sure you do it in another tab, right? But Google in Founder Weather Channel, Al Gore, and you'll see a video, and this video has gotten millions of hits all over the place. The guy, Eric's done great work on other things as well. He might have gotten niched into this one video, at least in my head, but it's a really good video of him with the founder of the Weather Channel calling out all the government, bullcrap, basically, right? Well, this guy who's on Fox News has actually come out as an anarcho-capitalist. Obviously, we all have transitions in life, and I'm glad to see people like Eric taking the step in a positive direction, what I think is a positive direction, and a very honest direction, seeing all these people coming out of the closet as ANCAPs. The other person that complements this story tonight in a rather ironic way. No, I don't want to be negative. This is optimism this hour. Is Ron Paul. He actually had a show. I forget what the actual title. Let me see if I can load it up real quick. Oh, it's an edit only. He actually had a video where he talks about how those who understand anarchy are, basically, anarchy is not the problem in the world, right? And so some people have said, Ron Paul's not a real anarchist, and I would agree with that, to the effect that he has stated, this is not like my opinion, this is statistical, empirical evidence and facts. He has stated in the past he wasn't sure about defense resolution organizations, DROs, dispute or defense, whatever you want to call it, multi-tiered arbitration, things, polycentric law, non-monocentric, non-governmental or statist, at least, monopoly on the justice system, on arbitration and mediation. And he said he didn't know how it was going to work out. Obviously, he wasn't. He just said he needed to research it more. This is, about a year or two ago. And before that, obviously, he understands monetary policy. He understands Keynesianism is BS. He understands that the wars overseas are BS. Really, lobbying efforts to suck down more of the tax dollars. That's all it really comes down to, right? Is tax coffers being drained from the public, and people, sadly, most of them cheering it on while it's happening. But Ron Paul saw through all that a long time ago. Some people will question, hey, why did it take him so long to see? Well, why did it take most of humanity so long to see? So I hate to be so skeptical against one person. I'm trying to knock away like 50 objections here. You can tell I'm a salesman. But the thing I've seen with Ron Paul is that he has progressed, right? He is taking those steps towards a free society. I think that is extremely beneficial and positive and something that we should cheer on. Him talking about something like this and just the word anarchy and saying that, he has a lot of sway. I wish he would have done it when he was running for office, right before he had dropped out of the presidential election. He wasn't ready for it then. That's the reality of the world. So Ron Paul, although he is not, although he has flaws, I still see him as a movement in the right direction for the most of the bulk of society. I see him as a really positive opportunity for us to grab this headline and to take it forward and help other people say, hey, Ron Paulers, some of you who might not even have heard of Anarcho-Capitalism or voluntarism before, check this out. Think about it from this angle for a second. Take it to the next level, because that's all it is taking libertarianism to this rational conclusion, and hence you have an anarcho-capitalist or a voluntary society. So I wanted to give a really quick applause, pat on the back, to Ron Paul and Eric Bolling, especially Eric Bolling for outright admitting he is an anarcho-capitalist. I mean, this guy could have his job threatened by Fox News, right? I am curious what the panel thinks about this. I want to open this up to everybody. What are your guys' thoughts about Eric Bolling and Ron Paul? Good, bad? Obviously, it's not hurting anarcho-capitalism because Ron Paul, in my opinion, has even stated, I'm just basically looking at it now, and I do like it. Better than some of the statist constructs that we're already currently living under. I want to hear what you guys think about when you hear articles like this of people declaring themselves anarcho-capitalists. I'm sure most of you guys view it as a positive direction, right?
Yeah. When I was at Mises Academy in Alabama, and I had about 12 hours with Judge Andrew Napolitano, I had lunch with him, and I said to him, "Are you an anarchist?" And he said to me, yes, but I would never say it on Fox. Because it takes balls, and he's a very honest guy, typically, but it takes balls to do that, right? To say that you're an anarcho-capitalist, especially if you're on a station like Fox that wants to bomb everyone, and the people that they don't want to bomb, they want to throw them in jail for drugs. So, his job could be threatened. It's like, someone in Hollywood is saying you're an anarcho-capitalist. I'm just waiting for, well, I don't want the president to say it because that would just be a lie and retarded. But, I think it's a step in the right direction.
Lauren?
I agree entirely. I think it's a good step in the right direction. I think that when people like Ron Paul stand up for us and come out and say that, this person that's been so well respected comes out and says, I'm an anarchist, it gives us a lot more credibility. It's really good.
Well, what did you think about Ron Paul before that? Did you really like him a lot, or did you think he was not consistent enough?
Oh no, I always liked him. But I mean, I don't think anyone's consistent enough. I mean, I'm an objectivist. I think that everybody is inconsistent. But I'll tell you that
How am I inconsistent?
Michael Shanklin.
We only have an hour.
Michael Shanklin. Michael Shanklin.
Well, surely you said everyone.
You are the only person on earth, Michael Shanklin, that is always consistent.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
never consistent. I mean, I'm not even consistent, but you.
What about my son?
Your
What about
son?
newborn babies? They're consistent. I'm taking this too
Newborn
deep.
babies cry and don't communicate well. So I'm going to go with no.
All right, fair enough. Well, when I heard about this, I was really excited about it, and I thought we should at least talk about it and bring it up. Menzel, did you have any words? You're not ready to talk, are you? Sorry, you're just listening.
Talking about Ron Paul, right? His
Yeah. What do
interview.
you think about him?
Yeah,
do
I
you think about
think
him
it was great.
Some voluntarists just outright call him a statist all the time. You know, some people are like, I hate the guy. I've always said he is a statist, but I think he's like much better than a lot of other people.
I think it's great every time. And not that I'm not sure. By the way, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure. But yeah, so I think it's wonderful. Actually, I liked him even before then. It's great, not just in time that someone said that they're an anarchist. Even though I want to say in the same interview, Ron Paul said that he doesn't consider himself an anarchist, but he does believe that the goal should be a voluntary society. But at the very least, what I really love about, even if they're not an anarchist, here's the guy running for governor here, Adrian Wiley, at least they don't. I respect people like that who, even anarchists, who have enough respect not to throw anarchists under the bus and say, well, anarchists are like deluded and want to rape, pillage, or whatever. So at the bit, it's a good thing that he actually sticks up for anarchists. Look, they're really nice people. I have good friends that are anarchists. They really want a peaceful, voluntary society. Don't believe state is. They don't want nothing with the state. We should just let them live and let live. Let them be, right? And the same thing here with Adrian Wiley. No, I don't think he definitely still believes in the state. But they don't really misrepresent anarchism. That's a very positive thing. Even if they're going in an anarchist direction, it's positive that they at least recognize anarchists, at least those of our bent, as a legitimate intellectual position, a consistent position, and not misrepresent it. So and should stick up for them. So.
All right, no, good stuff. You know, it was one of the things I had to talk about, and I just keep thinking in my head every day. More and more people talk good about anarchy. I wanted to spread that optimism to other people before we jump into the next hour, which is really going to be heavy hitting, hard hitting. It depends. Have you guys had a chance to actually look at all of the different topics we have tonight? I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look. One of the ones I kind of want to start with, if you guys don't mind, is the terrorist watch list, right? And I think it's really important, you know, coming from the fact that, and we'll talk about this in another article right after this, which I think we can segue in with that one, with this one, is talking about how in a post-Snowden society or world, it's much harder for the government to get honest people to do their biddings, right? I mean, most people who are in the government nowadays, there's a lot of people who've left the government just because they're so sick of it, and not only the bureaucracy, but also from an ethical perspective. I think there are people who are just not wanting to be a part of the state. There's better things to do in the private sector. Obviously, the private sector is what innovates.
Anarchy!
Michael, what the hell happened to you?
We don't know, but somebody want to take over?
Why don't you? You haven't spoken much.
Um,
Well, you tried. But
I did try very hard. You know, I felt like Ariel the entire time. You know?
Yeah, now that he's gone, you can make a permanent ass out of yourself.
Every guy's dream, a beautiful woman who can't speak.
Wow, Daniel. Wow. You remember when I thought your show was Daniel the Sexist instead of Daniel the Sexiest?
Yeah?
That would have been fitting.
I'm just kidding, Lauren, you know.
It's okay, because I can sing instead.
That's true. Yeah, but she couldn't sing in the movie.
Ariel? No.
Right.
She gave up her voice.
I know.
Like Ariel, and I wanted to make that comment because I thought that, you know.
You know, this is an interesting philosophical question. Would you give up your voice for legs?
No.
No? You would rather have your voice and no legs?
Yeah, I'd rather be crippled than mute.
Yeah. Maybe I'd want one leg. Maybe I'd like, you know.
I love talking. There's no way I could give that up.
That's true. Yeah, but you could always write. I mean, how are you going to get anywhere?
But I can't sing. That's no fun.
That's true. That's true. See, this is the show. Well, we should talk about it.
Right. Right. I should go get my guitar and play it badly. People would love that.
Play it badly? What do you mean?
I'm really awful at the guitar, but I'm trying to learn so I can play my own songs.
Oh, you don't play when you... The song, it's not you playing?
No, that's not me. I have a guitarist. He's really good.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, because I saw pictures of you on a guitar, but maybe you're, you know.
It's staged.
It's staged.
Staged.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm doing the song for Uncle Samta. So I'm doing one of the songs on Uncle Samta.
What song?
They're having me create a song after they write the script. So it should be really fun. So I get to do a Disney-esque song.
About what?
Well, the idea I pitched to them, which we may or may not fit into the script once it's written, is just the idea that the government coddles children so much that it makes them feel like the government doesn't believe in them. And all a child really wants is to be believed in. And they don't even believe in them.
That sounds cool. What's the name of the song?
Oh, I have no idea. It hasn't... I just have a concept. That's it.
All right. It's a good concept.
Yeah. It's a good concept.
Okay.
What do you think, Matthew?
What'd you say?
We're talking about a song for that movie. You know what? Let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic. I'm gonna run the show.
What's the next topic?
Yeah, I'm gonna run the show now. Okay. So lady creates new business. Health department shuts down. Who posted this one? Who wants to give us some background on it?
Sorry, someone entered my room. What was the show? And what was the topic?
A lady creates a new business, and the health department shuts it down. Who posted that one?
I don't know.
Not me.
What?
Not me. I don't know who did.
How about we talk about New York trying to regulate Bitcoin? I know all about that.
All right, go ahead.
New York City has just implemented or attempted to implement a new law, and they are trying to create what is called a bit license. And in order to trade in New York City, you have to have a bit license. But here's the catch. If you want to use Bitcoin. So if you want to use Bitcoin in business, you have to have a bit license. But here's the catch. Anybody that trades with anybody in New York has to have a bit license too. So what they're trying to do is make it so that they have to be under hundreds of different laws. Let's see. I have the exact number here. So in other words, to make Bitcoin regulated, it would have to comply with 246 laws, which is the number of countries in the world. So, I mean, this idea is completely ridiculous. The idea of regulating Bitcoin is just it can't even work. It can't even happen. What do you think? Input from the panel.
Stupid idea.
Well, yeah,
It's based on it's somewhat based on something that already is trying to happen, and they are somewhat trying to regulate Bitcoin and put it under law. At least they're trying to apply existing law to it, particularly treating it like they would treat instead of any other kind of commodity or stock. Actually, the way they're trying to treat it now. Actually, I want to say they're treating it other means as well in different areas. So.
What do you think, Daniel?
Well, the whole point of Bitcoin obviously is to have a decentralized currency. So obviously that, I mean, I understand why they're doing it. They want to control money. So you know, obviously, I think it would be very destructive if they, you know, were to regulate it.
I would think the way they're doing it is if they treat it as stock, because what they're doing here, you can actually somewhat regulate. For example, let's say if especially in a society where people very rarely use dollar bill cash, they use regular credit card and whatnot, you can somewhat manage buys Bitcoin, right? Through such as like he buys the Dinaro or something. You can somewhat manage that, or manage, let's say if I sell my Bitcoin to somebody else, you can somewhat see funds and dollar bills going into certain wallets or whatnot, and they will somewhat manage transactions that way and supply some a tax to it, especially if you got more money from the sale than you actually put in. So they can like a profit tax or something. So my guess is that's how they can manage, or not manage, but somewhat regulate it. But not fully. What they can't do is shut it down. That's what they practically cannot do without shutting down the whole internet.
What did I miss here? Sorry, guys, my internet cut out. I'm in this huge storm. I don't know if you guys can hear it outside the window.
Oh,
well,
you're fine.
About a lot of Sorry, I cut you. What, Lauren?
It's okay. I took over.
Yeah, we talked about first we talked about how the host of Voluntary Virtues, you know, has a bit of an attitude problem, bit of a douche. But then we spoke about The Little Mermaid. And would you give up your legs if you couldn't talk? Would you rather have legs and not be able to talk, or talk and not have legs? Like in The Little Mermaid, what would you do?
And then we talked about Bitcoin.
Right.
I would much rather be able to talk.
I would rather talk and not have legs. Even though I'm generally not talkative, but I particularly am better in ideas. If I can't talk, I'm not sure what the hell I would do. As I don't have any other type of skill outside of...
Yeah. I think in my case, not being able to talk might be a plus. So.
Well, y'all know what I would choose.
Yeah, speaking.
I love to talk.
Good.
I couldn't have guessed.
It's good. I like when people talk. That way, you know, I sound smarter because I'm not speaking.
Oh, okay, Daniel. Okay.
I don't know what that means, but I was doing some false humility, all right?
Anyway, let's let Michael take back his show.
What do you, is that lemonade? What are you drinking?
All right.
Lemonade.
Lemonade?
Sure, it's lemonade. We'll go with that. For the children. For the children. All right. Seriously, guys, we have some serious topics to talk about, such as Snowden 2.0. This is serious stuff. I mean, when you think about what this guy is going to be declassifying down the road, let alone what he just declassified right now, terrorist identities, data mart environment, a government community intelligence program that they have, and unfortunately, it puts a lot of innocent people as the guilty status instead of the innocent status, which they probably should be anyway. And here's the thing. here's the kicker of it. Out of all of the different groups that are on there, out of all the people that are on this, some of the groups that are broken down, the number one is Al-Qaeda in Iraq. There's 73,189 names from people who are with Al-Qaeda in Iraq that are supposedly on this terrorist watch list. The Taliban comes in second place with just over 62,000 people from the Taliban that are on this list. Al-Qaeda outside of Iraq is at 50,000. Hamas and Hezbollah follow up this, who is on the terrorist watch list. So when you come down to it, there's actually a huge percentage of these people that are recognized, that are put of other recognized terrorist groups. So they don't have, it's not Hamas, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Hezbollah, etc. But it's supposedly some other smaller ones. And then when you actually look at this, about 40% of the people that are on this list, they have no recognized terrorist group affiliation whatsoever. In other words, they don't claim a group, they don't want to be a part of a group, they're not in a group. So why are they supposedly marked as terrorists? Well, the thing is, the things that can get you put on the list are extremely extensive. I mean, extremely. They say there's almost 500,000 men on the terrorist watch list, and only about 39,000 women. So obviously they think, well, I guess this kind of reinforces the idea that it's a man-based world. Anyway, everybody has their own subjective value on that. But the deal is, how do they get these people on the list that have no affiliation whatsoever to a terrorist group? But I'm curious. Do you guys want to know? What's your guesses on how do they put you on this list? Anybody want to take a guess? Is that a no?
I don't remember when I got put on the list, but I know I'm on it.
No way. You'd be arrested. You'd be at Gitmo right now.
No, they're afraid of me.
I wouldn't doubt it. You're probably on some. It might even be this list. The thing is, we don't know everything about the Thai database yet. But we do know that there's a really, really expansive database, which I'm sure I'm probably on this one. And then there's a more limited one that even goes farther than the no-fly list. But when asked, how do people actually get put as a potential terrorist, and it really happens in what they call a very classified system. So there's a few people in a back room. They get together and they just put people on this list. You could be somebody who's just a normal, regular, everyday person, or you could be a real terrorist. We don't really know, because unfortunately there's not other private entities that are going around here. See, I guess the whole problem for me from this whole thing stems from the fact that the reason we have these people trying to attack America, and I have quotation marks around that, the reason that we have all these crazy people trying to attack us, or the region of America, is because the American government, the fascio-socialism of the state, has been meddling overseas for a very long time. This goes back to Iranian hostage crisis. Before that, when they kicked out the Shah and put Mossadegh in 1953, or when they kicked out Mossadegh and they put in the Shah, excuse me, and when the government kicked out, or the Iranian people kicked out the Shah from power, which was CIA backed. He comes fleeing to the United States. Yeah, I think he got cancer treatment or some kind of sickness. He had some illness and he got treated here. And he had brought a lot of money with him here. He died. And a lot of people said, we want that money back. And the American government was going to do what the will had stated originally, but they had the hostages. Anyway, that was a 444-day ordeal. Hostages finally released the day that Ronald Reagan was elected, and he unfreezed billions of dollars in technically the Shah's assets, which technically were not his, which were technically stolen from most people, some Iranians and other people that were in business. Anybody who was in his region, unfortunately, got drained for something rather. The Shah really did a lot of bad, but so did Mossadegh. It's statism in general, right? the belief that, oh, if only our side would have been in, we would have done better. Well, Mossadegh and the Shah are both bad ideas, but you can see how the U.S. getting into one of the sides would create bad blood in the region, right? And that's exactly what happened. Coming back to this list now we have the terrorists, all these terrorist programs going on. Of course, you're like 100 times more likely to die from murder, whether it's a police officer or non-police officer in the United States, than you are a terrorist over the last 50 years. So it's really silly when you actually think of the bigger things, like they're so afraid of terrorists, although you're like, in the last 10 years, you're 100 times more likely also to die from car accidents than you are. So the government roads that are endorsed and subsidized by the government, given the green light, 100 times more deaths than terrorism from the last 10 years. The point being, it's a mute topic, right? It's really silly. It's a way to pump the coffers of government spending, to give jobs to people who don't have to answer to the wants and needs of others, and unfortunately get a free ride, or at least an easier ride on the back of all the rest of the tax-paying workers out there. So in closing, not only have you been trapped into this potential terrorist situation where everybody's viewed as a terrorist suspect, but the fact that you, a really good person, could just be thrown onto this list and have to go through every legal loophole, if not losing your rights to a speedy trial, to the right to remain silent, to any of your freedoms that you should have. I mean, they're all being threatened right now. This started with NDAA, and this is not stopping anytime soon. The government is not shrinking, folks, right? Let's be real here. I want to open this up to you guys. Am I being paranoid here, or is the boom, the major, vast expansion of terrorist watch list BS that make it so people that are peaceful people, with little children, get on no-fly lists? Ridiculous. All the legal loopholes you have to go through. Of course, the state. If you think of it this way, every time you go to court to fight the state, it's only empowering the state more, and the state knows that, and the state can use it against you. What are you going to do? Stop the state? Yeah, right. I want to open this up to the panel. What do you guys think about this article? Am I being a little crazy? Obviously, now we have almost 40, at least 35% of the people on the terror watch list are not even affiliated with a terrorist organization. How can that be?
I think it's about scope, honestly. I agree with you. You're not being paranoid at all. I am constantly I'm constantly assured that I am on some sort of list. But anyway, the point is that I don't think you're being paranoid at all, and I think it's about scope. I think the bigger threat you are, people like Snowden, or people like, I worry about the creator of Tesla and SpaceX a lot, because I think he's going to get put on a terrorist watch list, that's for sure. And, it's people that have influence away from the government, people that are, moving people away from the government and sort of creating kind of a coup. And I think the more influential people are definitely, if not on this list, they're on some list.
Yeah, who wants to go next?
Well, yeah, I think, I'm not really sure, I don't think they're really going to do anything with the list myself, but I think it's more just, if they want to name the type of groups that are on lists as a way for people the people who sort of just blindly listen to say, oh, these people are bad, I'm not going to take them seriously. And I think that's what it serves. Not, we're going to go to your house and, lock you up or anything like that, but more just, we have a list, and these lists are organizations, and if we read them, then people are going to knock them off. Well, if they're on a government watch list, then they're just crazy fringe groups, so we don't have to listen to them.
Gotcha. So, but the thing is, it's not supposed to be made private, but it's the state, and you know that it's going to get leaked at some point. So we might be able to see one of the lists and see exactly which names are on that list.
I mean, look, the government is a violent thug, and so I would be upset if I wasn't on a list of things that government doesn't like, because all terrorism is to the state are
role models. They're role models.
Yeah. If if that's why, like when Robin Williams committed suicide and Obama said you'll be missed, I'm like, fuck you. The last thing I want to hear is this shithead speak about, a great actor who died. I don't give a fuck what Obama says. Go back into your hole. I want to be, on a list. I think it's good to be on a list. I want the government to be mad at me. It means I'm doing something right.
Yeah, and I think this goes hand in hand with the new story that's coming out just on, what was it, August 7th on Yahoo News, redirected from Reuters. This one actually talks about how the NSA is really struggling to recruit top talent. I had mentioned something about this earlier in the show, and how because of this, they're actually having to really highly focus their advertising push on Silicon Valley. They're really hurting for people to take jobs in the NSA because, after Snowden came out and was like, listen, this institution is lying and breaking their own laws. How can you trust them? A lot of people are actually really weary about this. This is the good side of humanity and me. People like me and us, anybody on the show, we don't work for the government and we don't work for them for a reason. We have a certain level of standards that we keep for ourselves, and it actually helps us out more than it hurts us, I think. But the point here is that, going off that last story, the NSA has outright come out and basically said, because we've been caught lying, because we've been caught breaking our own rules, it's been hard for us. This is what they're not saying this. They're not going to actually, explicitly say this, but implicitly what it says to me is we broke the law and we lied, and people know it. We can deny it or not bring it up or not mention it or try to shove it up, that dirt under the rug, but the reality of the world is we did break the law, we did lie, and people know it. And because of that, we're having a hard time. What's that?
What's really awful about the whole thing?
Go ahead.
It's the fact that they could have pretty much made any rules they want because nobody actually listens when they make rules. And they could have put as large a parameter as they want on the entire thing. And yet, they put these parameters on and they still defy them.
Well, I doubt a senator would vote. I doubt a senator or a congressman would vote to be spied on. You see what I'm saying? And to have they were spying on. They had to. There's no way that they could have had some of those things become legalities. Like there's no way that the lawmakers would have had hurt themselves in that way. You see what I'm saying? Because they were not just spying on us and getting in bed with AT&T. They were spying on other branches of government. And the other branches are the ones that vote on if they can spy on them or not, right? It's ridiculous. Of course, it's a conflict of interest. Of course, it's biased. That's not my point. The point is, these people really did outright went and did some really, really dirty stuff. And then, don't get me wrong, government is a war. So the politicians actually have it coming. You should expect it. You should expect other people in government to be at your throat, right? It's the beauty of the state is that it eats itself. The problem is it pulls all of civilization down with it, right? That's the only downside. I wish it could just eat itself and not pull down civilization. Unfortunately, we're stuck in the rat race.
But the issue is that these politicians don't even read it either. So they could have gotten by with passing literally any parameters on this that they want. There's no reason for them to go ahead and create parameters and still defy them. I mean, look at Obamacare. None of the politicians read that. Just make it really long.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I just want to leave on a positive note here really quickly. Last time is, unless somebody else has something to add, is it's a good sign when the NSA is having problems recruiting other people into their criminal syndicate, right? I mean, that's what we want to do. Anyway, we got to go on to another story. Who is it? I want to make sure I get to other people's stories. I don't want to be the only one that hogs all the time here. Somebody had posted here, the New York try to regulate Bitcoin. Who put that in here?
Oh, we spoke about that already.
Oh,
yeah,
we
we
did?
were
Okay.
talking about that.
Oh, when I wasn't, okay. Well, let me add my 2 cents real quick. I am not pro or anti-Bitcoin. And what I mean by that is I see no problem. I think Bitcoin could have came about in a free society. I really do. I think it would have been possible or something like it. But on the flip side, there's only one real money to me,
and that's going to be gold and possibly silver as secondary, right? Backup. That's you could make paper currencies. You can even do digital currencies and cryptocurrencies that are backed by gold and silver. But that's what it's going to have to be. That's what you have to judge the price back off of, right? You always back. Well, today we have to base it back off of USD because the government gun in the room. But essentially, the gold prices are still, they fluctuate because of government policy. That's just a part of the environment. But really, to me, the Bitcoin, it's not a statist construct to me per se, but it's also not something that I think is going to save the world personally. I don't think you can beat the gun of the state with just Bitcoin and people who are still anarchists, right? You need to have people who are mentally sound in the head and rational enough to realize that you don't have the right to own any other human being. That's what it really takes. Going along that, New York should never be regulating Bitcoin. Obviously, the regulation of anybody else's property is a criminal act in and of itself because it's an act of enslavement to that person, especially the fact when you think about if you do something with your Bitcoin that they say is a no-no, even though you don't hurt anybody else, right? Let's say you trade it with a prostitute or embezzle it across some other border. That doesn't hurt anybody else. Well, unfortunately, they're going to use the gun of the state. They're going to aggress on you and be the initiator of the violence. So what we have to realize here is that Bitcoin can be voluntary, and it can be a great thing, but at the same time, we must realize that I don't think it's going to really end the state, but that being said, it also shouldn't be regulated. Just like I don't think any other ledger system will end the state, even if it is digital or not digital or anything like. I don't think you're going to be able to stop the state with that. That being said, the state shouldn't regulate Bitcoin either. So I think I've spent enough time on that. All right, let's move over to another topic real quick. I want to talk about Robin Williams real quick. You guys, this storm is really bad outside my window. Can you hear it?
No.
Oh, it is horrific over here. I'm surprised.
How can we hear outside?
You know what's really bad? That Robin Williams is gone. Like, that's the most upsetting thing ever to happen to acting. He was the best in his trade. And when the best in a specific trade dies, or worse, commits suicide, I really hope that's not the case. But when someone intentionally takes themselves out of a certain trade, that's just the most upsetting thing I can think of. I remember growing up on Robin Williams. I remember I've seen most of his movies, and now I'm going to make sure I've seen all of them. And I was floored. I was completely floored.
Well, I think making a compilation of some of his videos to kind of like send a message to I don't know, kind of explain some of the things that might have been going through his mind as far as what we understand what was happening there, and then some uplifting, things. I've already taken snippets from What Dreams May Come, from Shrink, from The Fisher King, from Good Will Hunting, from Dead Poets Society. There's just a lot of work that he did that was very uplifting and very motivational, but there was also some very sad thoughts that he had in his mind, and I think that it's going to come out really nice. I'm liking where it's going.
I mean, what I think was very unique about Robin Williams was, I would describe him as Peter Sellers, but with soul, because Peter Sellers could imitate everyone, but he had no spirit. It was just imitation, and there was no heart in his characters. But Robin Williams was not just funny voices. If you see Seize the Day, which he plays this Jewish guy who has no money, and it's based on a novel by Saul Bellow. It's really good. He's so moving in that movie. Or Insomnia. I mean, he could do anything. And I agree with Lauren. He probably is my favorite actor. Him or Henry Fonda or Dustin Hoffman. Those are the top three of all time. And I think it is very sad. But I must say I'm not so surprised. in the sense that, well, he was depressed, and I think you sort of have to be very funny anyway, right? I mean, humor does not come from a place, at least in my view, from joy. I think humor is a defense mechanism and a way for dealing with the pain and anger in the world by just trying to write it off through comedy, right? I think the funniest people on Earth are people who are generally not happy. I think it's hard to be funny if you're an optimist and stuff like that. So,
Louis C.K., that's the first thing that comes to my mind when you say that. That's what I think about him.
that what?
That he puts on this shell like he's a comedian, but everything he does, it's so like, life, so depressing.
Right. So him, George Carlin, who I think was the best, stand-up comedian in my view ever. But yeah, so I think, what's that Mark Twain line? There is no comedy in heaven. The secret source of comedy is not joy but sorrow. I think that yeah. So I think the funnier you are, the probably more angry or the more depressed you're going to be. But no, it's a big loss. He probably did commit suicide. I don't think he was killed. So what else would it be?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how he died either. They say it was asphyxiation. So he probably, had something around his neck or something like that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, they said they found a belt around.
Anyway, yeah, really sad. A belt around his neck. Well, he must have been dangling from somewhere. You would think,
I think they said he was found in the closet or something. But yeah. But yeah, and he has 3 kids.
Have you guys seen World's Greatest Dad?
Yeah, about his son who died from autoerotic asphyxia. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he was hanging from a closet by a belt, this is really hard to talk about. Like, I'm actually really choked up about this.
It was not autoerotic asphyxia that he died from.
Well, obviously.
God.
But the thing is that I don't get emotional over celebrity deaths. I don't really even get emotional over most death. But honestly, I just think that we're coming to a time when people are not really, they don't work hard anymore. I don't see most people working hard.
I know. I agree with that.
The standard for hard work is depleting. And in that kind of world, I mean, I honestly can't think of anyone in our generation that has ever been as amazing and influential as Robin Williams. And, I spent a lot of time keeping track of him and making sure that I see all of his new movies, I did, because I honestly, as an objectivist, I really value hard work, and I value people that give their all. And Robin Williams was somebody that not only could do funny roles and make everyone laugh and make everyone joyous, but also he was able to do more serious roles, and I just think that there's never going to be another Robin Williams, and there's just, as hard as anyone tries, he really was like, what Einstein was to science. I really think that Robin Williams really changed the standard for acting, and it really breaks my heart, honestly.
One of the things also, if you see him in interviews, and this sort of drove me crazy, he's always on. Like, there's really never an interview where, even in Charlie Rose, where people are typically serious, where he's not performing. I think he always just wanted to be loved. But I wish, I'm like, just show the real you. I mean, he did have vulnerability in his characters when he was acting, but I wanted to see that in interviews, and I felt maybe he was just afraid, like, no, I have to entertain people. If I don't entertain people, they're going to think I'm boring or something like that. I think he was a somewhat insecure person, in my view. So he just wanted to be loved.
I will say this, that when it comes to the free market in the entertainment industry, the lack of open competitiveness that would normally exist in a free market does create some cartel type of things that happen, and you tend to see particular producers and their particular picks being shown more and more and more than they should be necessarily as far as demand for their particular talents, and they're asked to do movies that are, quite frankly, crappy. And these people are capable of making such amazing art that when they're put into positions where they're putting out crap, it's got to do something to the soul. As far as you're looking back and saying, "Wow, I actually made, Patch Adams or whatever that all these bad movies that have been made by amazing actors." The guy who actually was in The World According to Garp, performing such schlock that you've seen him in, the guy that was in What Dreams May Come, it's just horrible that he has to do stupid crap movies. And the idea that a free market would prevent some of that, well, it's actually true. I mean, if you don't have the you don't have the cartel dictating what it is that has to be performed and what has to be made, people can be more specific with their subjective choices. They can choose what it is that they actually like to have. So in that particular regard, I think it's definitely been a bad thing for Robin Williams. And then another thing is, he was a cokehead, and by the fact that government makes cocaine illegal, he was unable to purchase the cocaine that he wanted to without fear of endangering his family's lives, his life, because of the, having to work with criminal elements. So by having it available in the free market, if he wanted to be a cokehead, he could be a cokehead and a functional cokehead and enjoy it. But of course, we'll never hear that from the the cartel we call the news industry. It's just not going to happen. So there's multiple ways in which the state actually contributed to Robin Williams' death.
Yeah. All right, guys. Oh, mute up for us. Mute up.
All right, who's not stepping up to talk?
Oh, all right. Sorry. I guess my microphone was muted. So here's the deal, guys. I don't want to spend the rest of the time focusing just on Robin Williams. I like him. I thought it's sad what happened to him, but I got a couple other things to go over. So, really quickly, the last thing on it, I'm sad for what happened. Wish he could have been with us a longer time, and I hope we can figure out what happened and solve whatever that is. All right, enough with the semantics. So, I want to talk about an article that just came out, and it's really hammering away on this Cato study. Go ahead and mute up if you're not talking, guys. Where it's about this Cato study that is talking about how the best paying entry-level job in 35 out of the, just for those who don't know, the 50 states, and this does include the District of Columbia, so I guess 51 regions at least, how 35 of them actually have entry-level jobs. The best entry-level job for payment-wise is welfare. In other words, if you get on welfare, you are pre-tax equivalent, basically. You're going to be better off than working minimum wage at almost any other location, any other state. So let me give you just a little bit of feedback on this. On the low end, the place where welfare is technically one of the lowest hourly wage equivalents is in Idaho. And of course, don't think that the people in Idaho are suffering that bad. They make it up. Everything, all that money that's left in the private sector creates more wealth, and so they can feed and clothe more of the people who can't feed and clothe themselves, etc. But Idaho, the state of Idaho, has an equivalent welfare range of about $5.36 an hour. Right. So that was the very lowest hourly wage equivalent pre-tax per year that comes out to around 11 grand if you're on welfare. So very low numbers, really. That does not include food stamps, just welfare, which covers rent, electricity, etc. So not too bad. Over $5 an hour still for free. That's pretty good money. But when we get to the range where it actually crosses over, it goes from Wisconsin at $7.16 up to Arizona at $7.37. So being on welfare in Arizona, the 34th state, 35th American region, including D.C., is just slightly over the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, right? Equivalent, pre-tax equivalent is what, $15,320. Yeah. So thinking about this now, there's 34 other regions above Arizona, and the next step up to number 34 jumps from 737 as Arizona 737 to number 34, South Carolina, and check this out, hourly wage equivalent $10.53. That's what you get paid for welfare, is $10.53. That's pre-tax equivalent annually, not that every state will let you have welfare for a whole year, right? But if you were to have it for the whole year, that's equivalent, pre-tax equivalent to almost $22,000, $21,910. Now these numbers keep going all the way up. I guess the number one makes more sense because the cost of living out there is so much higher. Hawaii is clocked in at around $29 an hour for welfare. Pre-tax equivalent is around $61,000 a year that you'd be making. Just welfare. Try bagging groceries and you come home to mama who's on welfare and she's making 4 times, 5 times, 6 times as much money as you. The District of Columbia, who would have thought them in Massachusetts, and New York's number 5, Connecticut number 4, just that whole fascio-socialist region itself is just horrific. The District of Columbia, the place at the hive of the worst insects and parasites this world's ever seen. District of Columbia, right down the street from me, technically. I can drive there in about 5-6 hours. $24.43. At least Hawaii, I can see that being more justified. Out in the sticks, or out in the middle of the ocean, excuse me. But the DC area at $24.43. Massachusetts, welfare hourly wage equivalent, $24.30. New Hampshire is actually quite up there as well at 11 cents. Now, it is said that a lot of the higher hourly wage equivalents, they actually have much stricter, much harder restrictions for actually getting on the welfare in the first place. So in other words, you can't keep it if you have make a certain amount of money, you can't get that welfare level. If you work a certain amount of hours, which is kind of like the inverse of working. In other words, why work if you're going to lose welfare money, right? But they don't see it that way. They say, well, if you work 24 hours, then you should get paid less than the person. You should get less welfare than the person who has 0 hours. Both of them are trying to get out of the hole. I guess it's kind of like a way to keep them in the hole. That's the way I see it. But even New Hampshire, the live free or die state, $19.11. That's ranked number 9. Most of these are double digits. Obviously, South Carolina, 34th and up, all of them $10.50 or higher. So, when we look at this and we realize that you're paid more to do nothing, it actually pays you not to go to work. This is a serious problem. This is why 12 to 13% of North Carolinians, I hate to even put this niche name on them, this statist boundary being associated with them, but we're talking 12 to 13% of the people that live around me right now are on food stamps. 12 to 13% of the people living around me, 1.5 almost out of 10 people that I see, they need assistance for food, right? Now, I'm not saying the answer is just to give to buy houses for people and that the government's chimping out. I'm saying quite the opposite. The reason we have this society that is becoming increasingly poorer and poorer and poorer and making it harder to find jobs is the fact that government continues to grow and hence continues to oligopolize industries. Very serious unintended consequence of the state. yet one of the leading causes of poverty and one of the leading causes of third world countries in and of itself, right? So I want to open this up to the panelists. We only got a few minutes left. What do you guys think about these numbers? Where am I going wrong? Are you saying, Mike, maybe you should think of this, X, Y, Z? Mike, you didn't go far enough. You need ABC. Mike, maybe I like what you said, but here's something else to think about, etc. What do you guys think? Go ahead, panel.
Well, Lauren?
One of the things that is critical as far as the understanding of this is that it's supply and demand is going to occur, and when people have a demand for unemployment, which basically all demand is the aggregate amount of money that is willing to be spent on X, Y, or Z. That's how much demand there is for X, Y, or Z. And if there is $200,000 worth of demand for unemployment benefits or welfare benefits for people, then the marketplace will supply to that demand. It will supply the unemployed to that demand. People are willing to take the job of being unemployed. And so if people are willing to pay them to be unemployed, there's plenty of people who are willing to take the job of providing that. That's just how it's going to work. The reason why you see that the prices are higher for demanding unemployed people in Hawaii and in Washington, D.C. is primarily because, well, the cost of living in those particular areas is very high, and those people that are living in those areas feel that they're affluent and successful, and therefore they need to take care of the less fortunate and have a high propensity to throw money at the problem instead of actually trying to, address the problem, creating the demand. So it's a simple supply and demand curve.
Good answer. Go ahead, Daniel, I think was next. Rothschild?
Yeah, sorry. I didn't really. I didn't really. Okay, Lauren's making me laugh. I didn't really have anything to say. I thought Lauren would have comments because she seems to really have strong opinions about what's happening, and I just wanted to, give her the floor.
All right, Lauren, go ahead. We only got a couple
Thrown
minutes.
under the bus. There you go.
Let's go, guys. Go ahead, Lauren.
Look, I'm an objectivist, right? Okay, so I'm going to represent the objectively correct view on this. And you know what? This is BS. Above everything else. This is disincentivizing work. This is paying people for sitting on their butts. And I don't care your reason for sitting on your butts. Even people who are handicapped can get jobs. There is jobs out there. And the worst part about it is that the government is taking money and giving it to people and saying, look, we're so wonderful. Look at us give you money. But actually what they're doing is making it so the businesses can't create jobs. And then they're giving you money from taxing the crap out of these businesses so they can't create jobs. And on top of the whole thing, they make businesses look completely evil. And you can't purchase self-esteem. You can't purchase pride. And those are the things you get from a job that you're never going to get from just a random paycheck from the government each month. And
You actually lose your self-worth when you accept those checks.
Thank you!
Yeah, really.
That's all I have to say about that matter. If you disagree with me, then you clearly have never had a job because you don't understand how much pride and self-esteem having a job brings you, even when it's a really crappy job at Lowe's.
Yeah, no, I agree. A bad job is better than no job. And look, obviously the government doesn't give a fuck about anyone. They just want votes, and they just want people to become wards of the state and dependent on them, right? That's why, when I hear all these people talk about government creating jobs, they sound really dumber than dirt, and really completely retarded, because just end requiring licenses and permits. just end minimum wage if you really give a shit and want these people to have work. So this is just, bullshit that they care about the poor and bullshit on anything. And, well, I don't know. Lauren said it better than me.
Yeah, no, you're good, guys. We get the point. I agree with everybody here. We all agree. And this is great. This is how we make the advancement forward. We come to shows like this. We make our cases. We say it loudly and proudly, right? And hopefully other people will hear it and want to at least hear what we're saying and I think understand where we're coming from, too. Guys, make sure you check out, right after this show here in the next couple minutes, the after hours, the roundtable after hours with the Krug, Robert Kruger, obviously. I was with him, about a week and a half ago in Arizona. Wonderful time with the crew up there. I was not able to talk about this last week. I was on the show. But I had a wonderful time with everybody up there, especially Robert. We hung out a lot, and it was a great time, Robert. And I thank you so much for your hospitality and friendship, and I really had a blast.
It was a great time, and I'm going to head out so I can start up the hangout for the Voluntary Virtues After Hours show. So, peace out.
All right, guys. Make sure you head over there. It's going to be right after this, 10 o'clock, until an undetermined time. But I do want to give a shout-out to Jackalope Festival. Also, if you guys want to see me speak, head over to Libertopia. I think there's also a great debate going on between Jeffrey Tucker and Chris Cantwell. Somewhere, I don't know when I'll, in relation to when I'm doing my thing, but I will be there hopefully the whole week. So I'm going to have a blast there in San Diego, and I hope you guys can make it out that way as well. For now, though, we're going to head out. Make sure you guys head over to the after hours with the Krug, and we will make sure I come back over here and put the link in there for that. And you guys can also check out the Facebook page, Statism is Slavery. Head over to facebook.com/statism makes you a slave, and add me, Mike Shanklin, over on Facebook. Love to have the discussion and all the extra, just the discussion itself is so healthy and has advanced so many people so far. It's unbelievable. So the more people we can get in that, the better. Thanks again, guys, all the panel for being here on Voluntary Virtues. I will talk to you guys next Tuesday evening, every Tuesday evening, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Voluntary Virtues Network. Take it away, guys. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. Goodbye.